So welcome everyone to the launch of the Inspire Learning programme. We've been working across the Scottish borders with all of the secondary schools over the past 6 months, and we've launched the Inspire Learning programme with every single one of them. And now that programme is coming down to the primary schools, and that means it's coming to you. Now normally we would be working and speaking in gatherings in every school across the Scottish borders to crowds of parents and young people to share the enthusiasm that we have for the Inspire Learning programme and the potential that that has to really make learning and teaching a better experience. Unfortunately, because of the current COVID situation, we're having to do that by a video. So we're coming to you to try and share some of that enthusiasm directly as part of this video. And you're going to discover some of what the Inspire Learning programme actually means in the next few minutes as we get to share that with you. So, what is Inspire Learning? So Inspire Learning is a programme that's been developed over the past year and has been launched and conceived by the Scottish Borders Council and some of their partners, including CGI, Apple, and other partners that we work with. And really, we've got some really clear aims. One of them is to build a world-class digital learning environment for children and young people in the Scottish borders. And that really focuses on making learning and teaching a better experience for everybody. And that's at the heart of what the Inspire Learning programme is all about. We want to try and make sure that we provide equity. That means equal access to the same great tools for learning for every young person in the Scottish borders, no matter who you are, where you come from, or what your postcode says. We also want to focus that on helping you to achieve your absolute potential as a young person, a learner in our region. That means we want to focus on helping you raise your attainment and achieve and attain the maximum that you're capable of while you're in school. And that's in the context of a world that is constantly changing, and now is a perfect time to make that analogy. And we know that the skills that you'll need when you go out to live and to work and thrive in the world that is around you are very different from perhaps the skills that your parents needed or your grandparents needed, and they focus on digital skills. And it's those digital skills that we know are being encouraged in curriculum and in schools all over the world, and we want to make sure that when you get access to them in the Scottish borders, you do so in the best possible environment to help you thrive. So, you are at the heart of the Inspire Learning programme as a young person. Your parents, absolutely part of our Inspire Learning team as they support your education. And we want to see that that makes a difference not only for you, but also for the wider community and economy of the Scottish Borders region. So some of these reasons really come close to what the Inspire Learning programme is all about. So what does that actually look like? And we get asked this question a lot by teachers and parents alike. How does technology in the classroom actually become a benefit and not a distraction? If we were together, I would demo this so you could actually see it live. But part of our Inspire Learning programme involves tools that allow the devices that we put in the hands of every young person to be able to be part of a class that can be seen and monitored and directed by the teachers that teach in those classes. Now that means that the teacher is able to focus the learning. It means that the young person is able to be helped to avoid distractions and actually really focus on what the tasks, the learning tasks and the creative tasks at the heart of the learning process are at any particular time. So why is all of this important? Well, I don't know what you would call this image if you were to look at it. As a parent or as a grandparent, you probably would do what I would do and talk about that as your mobile phone. You know, if you forget you're going out the door and you realise that you've left your mobile phone in the house, and you'll go running and looking for your mobile phone. My kids, and perhaps the young people that may be watching this video, would never call that a mobile phone, right? They would just call it a phone. And the simple reason for that is that they've never really known any other kind of a phone. So we all remember the dial-up, and they don't remember that. They don't even remember phones now, most of them, that plug into the wall, because a mobile phone essentially is the phone. How about this? Well, you very rarely hear people nowadays talking about colour TV. Although some of us, and I can only just remember this, remember a time when colour TV was not the only kind of TV, and there was a black and white version that kind of stopped at midnight and they played the national anthem and all kinds of different things. Now, TV, even as a concept to young people, is changing rapidly as content is streamed at them from all sorts of different directions, and they can access that as and when and where they decide they want to. So, massively changing. Digital business. Even now, you don't really hear people talking so much about this concept of digital business. And that's because digital is now the way that all businesses essentially run. And that's also true of the health service, where we don't really talk about digital health. It's often assumed because digital tools increasingly are the way things happen. And yet often you'll hear people in various parts of the world talking about digital learning, because we all realize that digital tools are a priority in learning. But when we talk about that as part of the Inspire Learning program, we don't really talk about digital learning. We just talk about learning, because we believe that learning, the best possible examples of learning and teaching, should be offered to our young people. Now, if they use digital tools, that's great, and they should have access to them as and when they make learning better. But if not, learning can look great outside in the playground, in the art gallery, on the sports field, and perhaps some of these learning experiences don't always use digital tools. But it's important because the world is changing so fast. This image was taken in St. Peter's Square outside the Vatican in Rome in 2005. It shows a crowd waiting for the announcement of a new pope. And what you'll notice is that there's really no technology in that picture. Nobody's got the phone out. The same image taken this time in 2013, so 8 years later, looks very different. And we can see the intrusion of technology into our everyday lives. Now, in this image, people are capturing the world around them using the technology. Now, that's not actually the end of the story, because this particular image that I'll show you next was taken in 2016 during the American election campaign of Hillary Clinton. And you can see how the use of technology is suddenly changed. Everyone's got the phone out, everyone's capturing the world around them, except by this point, they also want to make sure that everyone knows, that the world knows, I'm actually here, I was part of this event. And that process of personalization of technology in our lives is something that offers incredible potential, but also a doorway into what can be a really dangerous world. So as part of the Inspire Learning program, we're focused on making sure that the technology we deploy can be used safely and securely in a way where young people are enabled to develop the skills to thrive in this digital world, but also avoid some of the dangers and the pitfalls associated with it. And that looks like a whole lot of different things in learning. What about textbooks? Probably you as a parent or a grandparent, when you were at school, you learned most of what you learned out of a textbook, or maybe combined with that out of the mouth of one of your favourite teachers. And textbooks are changing, so they can become digital, so they can now include video and quizzes and audio and all sorts of different types of content that can deepen the understanding of a young person and also be kept constantly up to date. But that's probably not the most exciting thing, because now young people can also themselves begin to create the textbook and the content that forms a textbook, which then can be shared with other learners. And some of these new ways of learning and interacting can actually be incredibly powerful in learning. Confidence. I've taught for many, many years, and sometimes you'll go into a class of 5-year-olds and you'll say, well, today we're going to draw an elephant. Now, a whole class of 5-year-olds will take the pens and the paper from you, and they'll just get started drawing what they think an elephant actually looks like. If you try that same lesson with a class of 13-year-olds, then the routine answer will often be, oh, hold on, I can't draw elephants. And they'll be very, very nervous about even making a start on a challenge like that. Now, in actual fact, they've had a whole bunch more years to work out what does an elephant actually look like, but somewhere they've lost that confidence. They've kind of worked out, if I put my pen on that bit of paper, I'm going to make a mistake. Some of what we can do with technology is around the power of the undo button. So it allows us to begin to experiment in ways that we know we can't actually go wrong, because we can always go back a step, undo, resize, reshape, put somewhere else, prototype. And that process is actually really powerful, again, at the heart of learning. And sometimes it forms part of a learning process where digital tools are there, but maybe they're not the end goal, they're not the outcome. Maybe you're analysing your golf swing so that you can go out and you can then make it better. Or you're painting a picture where you can create the design on your digital tool, like your iPad, but then you're ultimately wanting to go and create with paint or sculpt in a way that you then have something that is much more of a finished outcome. Feedback. This is a massive thing for us. When I was teaching, you'd often see teachers struggling across the car park with 6 o'clock at night with a whole pile of jotters that they were then going to take home and mark. What if you could submit your English essay and it went to your teacher instantly? They maybe were sitting at home at night and they were notified that you'd handed in your English essay. They could open that on their iPad, on their technology, on their device, and they were then able to give you feedback either by writing it or typing it or maybe even speaking it, that took them a whole lot less time to mark, that avoided stumbling across the car park with a mountain of jotters in the dark, and actually was much more impactful for you, because when do you receive that feedback as a young person? Well, potentially you receive it the instant that your teacher's finished giving you the feedback and ready to share. And we can see that that feedback process being changed actually makes a massive difference in learning, because the young people begin to develop this position, this feeling of themselves as massive contributors to their own education and not just passive in the context of learning. And that is huge for all of us. What does that ultimately look like? And I'm going to just maybe finish off with a story that maybe illustrates this. I lived and taught in Greenock for many years on the west coast of Scotland, and one of the processes that we often taught was the water cycle. It was very easy to teach in Greenock because basically you just said, well, everybody turn and look out the window. That's the water cycle. If you missed it, don't worry, it'll be back tomorrow, because it was a process that we saw pretty much day in and day out. This particular lesson, we had been and we'd studied all the scientific processes that make up the water cycle, and we came back to the classroom, and the challenge for the young people in that class that particular afternoon was, how does that water cycle affect Greenock, where we live? How do those scientific processes make themselves known in this town where we all live? Now, they had had iPads kind of for about 2 months, so they thought they were pretty smart. This would be a primary 5-6 class. And they immediately started asking questions like, well, are we doing a podcast, or is this an essay, or are we doing a report, or is it a newspaper article, or are we going to do a diagram? And that particular afternoon I said, well, look, you can do whatever you want as an outcome, so long as it answers my key questions. What is the water cycle? How does it affect Greenock? And are you engaged in your learning? And can I share whatever you create with anybody else that's interested in whether or not you achieved the task? So this was really fascinating. Some people went away and they wrote an essay. Actually, one person chose to do that. Other people did things like this. This was an 11-year-old girl who decided that she was going to create an image that described the water cycle, showed the process, and this actually involved something really creative. 2 or 3 different apps. My only negative comment on this was that it didn't mention Greenock. But someone else did this. And this was a young man who sometimes struggled to focus always for any period of time. And he wanted to make a cartoon. So I don't know if I can share this with you, but he made this cartoon using different apps on his iPad, 3 or 4, all of which he'd never used before. But he just knew that one that's called Animation Creator has got to be the place where you make cartoons, right? So he was able to make an animated display of the process of the water cycle happening in Greenock to demonstrate his learning that he could then share with me as a video, and I can then share with anybody else all over the world. So that idea of being able to have unique, creative, personal ways to capture and share your own ideas and your own learning is actually really at the heart of the Inspire Learning program. Now, when we speak to teachers, and maybe some of your teachers will feel like this. This picture's taken from the Pont des Arts in Paris. You may remember it fondly if you've ever been before the days when we were all locked in our houses and our gardens. These padlocks were supposed to be there forever. They were put there by people who went with their partners and their wives and their girlfriends and boyfriends, and they would inscribe them with their initials. They would padlock them to the bridge. They'd throw the keys into the River Seine while the sun set in slow motion, and those padlocks were to be there forever, just like their love for one another. Except they're not there anymore, because the padlocks, the weight of the padlocks was bringing down the bridge. And sometimes this is how teachers feel. But you're going to come at me with technology, with an iPad? I've already got all these challenges. I'm already coming to terms with all this stuff. How am I going to cope when you put another big padlock on the bridge? And actually, from the Inspire Learning team, our job is to help them remove some of those padlocks from the bridge and enable them to understand that technology exists for one reason only, that it makes the experience of being a learner or being a teacher better. If it's not doing that, don't use it. As and when it does, having those tools to hand is actually a really, really powerful thing. So, we would like to welcome you, parent, grandparent, carer, young person, to our Inspire Learning program. You're part of our Inspire Learning team, along with all the people that put in the infrastructure, the people that have delivered your iPads to you, all the team that have put the video together and the process, the instructions that you're about to follow to set your iPad up. They're all part of the Inspire Learning team, and so are you. So welcome, enjoy learning with your Inspire Learning iPad, and we look forward to working with you through the next few years of your time in school as part of Inspire Learning. Thank you.